Thank you, Melissa, and I will echo your thanks to Nicolas here, to my wonderful colleagues, past and present. I also want to thank those with your studio, Nicolas, who have been so helpful and instrumental in bringing this project to life, Catherine and August, and Catherine with Hauser and Worth as well. It was certainly a collective and very major effort to bring this together, and it's been 2 years, I think, in the making, the planning and making, since you first started thinking about this work. So to start, I happened upon a quote by the artist John Baldessari the other day, and he talked about how for him, in some measure, and I'm paraphrasing, all artworks are in some way a conversation with other artworks. He puts them out and other artworks respond. And I thought of you and this work immediately because there's such an interesting lineage for the specific imagery and iconography that you have developed and conceptualized for this piece. So I thought perhaps you could talk us through how you began to develop the imagery that we see here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here, and it's like an immense pleasure and honor to be again in Washington to do a new project. It's really truly wonderful to be here. So yeah, this commission came about like around 2 years ago, and I guess the premise was very pragmatic and fairly simple. Like it's a very functional, which in art usually doesn't happen. Usually this is the space and you have to create something and you can do whatever you want. Here was like, oh, we have the scaffolding, it's going to look a little bit off, so can you just trying to do something to cover it?
Can you come up with over 800 feet of something? Yes.
Exactly, and yeah, it was for the first minute extremely challenging, but I think I just like, it's such a amazing opportunity to do something very different and very challenging. So I said yes straight away, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. But I have to say that it took a very long time for me to find the right thing to do. And for almost a year and a half, I think I had a lot of ideas, but every time I was making a visual, it was really not working on the little model, and also it was obviously COVID during all that time, so it was kind of strange to think about a project on that scale in Washington. It was just like, it was kind of strange to, a year and a half ago things were a bit different, and thinking about doing an artwork in Washington was fairly heavy, and I'm not even American, so it was like, oh, well, what I'm doing here. And anyway, I walked it took a lot of my headspace and sketches and drawing, and towards the end, actually, that's when I came up with that idea of the motif of the curtains and those kind of faces on the building, after probably like 5 or 6 very different routes that I took, and then from that point it came out pretty quickly, and I felt it was the right thing to do. And in any project, I mean, probably every artist will talk in that way. Like, it's sometimes you have a moment that you feel, oh, I think that's the way to go. Let's just go. And today it's the first time I see it, and I think it's I think it was the right path.
Yes, I think we agree. We certainly agree. So, how did you start to conceptualize the faces in particular? What was important about the way that you wished to render them as part of the overall design?
I mean, both of the curtain and the faces came in the same time. Maybe like the difference between the two is that the faces are more like a common motif in my work. I do a lot of portraits, and those portraits are quite similar to what I do. So they have a little bit of a genderless kind of aspect, and they don't really have a lot of personality. You can't really, oh, that's that person or that type of character. They're a little bit like ghostly, or like they have this presence that is kind of almost like behind humans, and I think like my decision of the black and white was to create obviously a contrast with the curtain, but also I guess create a connection with the architecture and the building. One of the big thing was the colors. When I did all the like in the environments, and a lot of time I've struggled a lot because of course you will not know how it's going to look before, because you work with model, but it's only when it's on site that and it's very stressful because if it doesn't work, it's a little bit you're like, oops, I guess it doesn't work. And so it was a little bit stressful, and because I always say, like, when you do a painting and it's bad or it doesn't matter, you just have to, either you just don't show it, you just keep doing. But when you do something like that, it's bad.
It's harder to hide.
It's harder to hide, exactly. Yeah. So it was like a little bit stressful.
So can you tell us about where the curtains come from?
So the curtains come from different paintings. Some of them are actually, the one that is right here is Magritte. So it's kind of some of them are. I mean, they're all pretty famous. There's a Vermeer kind of painting. There's a Rembrandt's painting. There's the Root painting. A lot of them actually Dutch kind of 1600s, where it was very fashionable to do those still lifes that were hidden, or even a portrait that were hidden by a curtain. Actually, the painting that time very often have a real curtain to hide them because of lights and to protect them, which happens still in museums when there's like, you hide them during, if there's too much lights. So there was the play with that, but it comes back to almost to the first tales of art history in Western art, where one of the tale is the Plin story, where famously, like, they have this like best painters in the ancient Greece, and one of them does this grape painting, and the birds gonna think that's a real grape, and the other one is like and also reveal the painting, remove the fabric, remove the curtain of the canvas, and is like, oh, actually that was painted, and so I didn't fool the birds, I actually fooled you, and there's this long history of art that is about revealing and hiding the subject, and sometimes the process of revealing or hiding is the work itself. So that was kind of one of the interest and kind of the material that I used for the piece in terms of art history.
Right, and the reveal and the obfuscation is sort of an apt motif, maybe for hiding a construction project, but maybe also for Washington and the mall. Yes.
Yes, then this whole idea of reveal and hiding was very directly working with what's happening, because we're literally trying to hide the construction sites, and of course the metaphors goes for the entirety of the city. There's a lot of things that are very shown and visible, and of course there's a lot of things that are very hidden. And it's such a fascinating environment here for this. It's like I don't think there's any other cities like that, when there's so many buildings, but also so many monuments that are like extremely talkative about what they're trying to say, sometimes very, very loudly.
Right, and now we have this speaking back.
Exactly, it's part of this, I guess.
Yeah. So how does one go about making something like this? Where did you begin, and how with pastel portraits? Yes. So what was the process whereby those original pastels were transformed into what we're looking at?
Yes. So actually, in the first other ideas, we plan to do actually like one big piece that will be then photographed and then basically printed, but then actually change the process because of this motif. So basically, like, all the pieces are kind of each portrait is a portrait on paper. It's like maybe like that size, more or less, and all the curtains also painted that size. Then basically all of them were photographed, and it's basically a digital collages. And you can see the repetition of, let's see the green curtain here. You can see there's a repetition of, the same with the red. Actually, the red is only 2. And then on the back, I put it some. So it is a digital kind of collages made out of like around 25, something like that. A different small pastel that, you can maybe yeah, you can actually feel the texture a little bit of the pastel. Pastel is just the medium that I used primarily in my practice, so that's why I used it.
Would you talk more about pastel and your yes, your choice to employ it?
Yes, so so pastel is a medium that I love dearly. That I discovered only 7 years ago. But at that time, I was using mostly oil painting, and I was struggling mainly with the time that I was spending in my painting. I was spending too much time in my view, and I was feeling a little bit trapped in that kind of process. And when I started to use pastel, it's completely freed me, and I fell in love like really strongly with this particular technique. And the first thing that I did using the pastel was doing portraits, and I was not doing any portraits before that, so it was already something interesting. And the first thing that I did when I did my first portraits, I put in some makeup, I painted makeup, eyelashes, and lipstick on the face of this person that I was painting. And I never really knew why, but I was just keep doing it. I really had a interesting time with those characters and having this conversation with them. They were asking me the right questions, and I was asking them the questions, and we were having a good time together. And it's only later on that because I was really getting so passionate about pastel that discovered this extremely fascinating history of the medium itself, that to make it short, that is really booming in the early 1700s. And the figure of Rosalba Carriera, this woman artist, this artist from Venice, basically like was doing miniature painting, and she was already very well known for that. But she started to use pastel, which was kind of a starting medium. It was just developed after the Renaissance, but it was still not like completely set. And she started to do portrait, and she made this genre extremely popular. But one of the interesting things is that at that time, in the Rococo period in Italy, and especially in France, people were wearing a lot of makeup. It was very fashionable. People had those like big wig with the white on it and the white face, and a lot of colors. And there was a lot of play with genders and makeup, and it was very playful with all those kind of different ideas. And so when people were painting portraits of those people with pastel, they were literally painting a painting. And they were using even the same type of material, because the makeup was quite often made out of the same pigment and the same material, probably very bad for the skin. But so you will...
I think flammable.
Yeah, there was all sorts of bad things going on, and yeah, that I got really into this particular history and period, and found it very fascinating for many reasons.
So I have one final question, and I sort of think that when you were immediately a very apt, I think, artist when the museum started conceptualizing this project, because you have worked architecturally so often with spaces holistically, and I think the show at the Hirshhorn in 2017 was an example of sort of treating the space as an environment, or creating an immersive environment. But I do think that this is the largest architectural project that you have undertaken, and I'm just wondering how it feels to see it today after 2 years, and whether there's anything that you've learned through doing this particular project that you might carry with you into the work moving forward.
I mean, it feels like pretty overwhelming, and I think like, again, because it's here and it's in Washington, and when you get asked to do a project, you say yes, like almost like a kid. So, oh yeah, okay, I'll play, and then soon enough you realize you did this, and you're like, oh, okay, I did that, and you almost kind of separate yourself from it a little bit, because it's so visible. It's here, it's in Washington, in the mall. Everybody's going to see it, so it's a little bit intimidating, and so in a way I feel a little bit like, oh, maybe I don't want to be too but it's yeah, I think it feels like really great to see it like that, and see the reaction of people. I think that's the main thing that I probably now, because it's so public, and because of Instagram, you can really see just very like a broad way of reaction. People just post and they say what they think, what the association they will make with it, in a completely like open way. Even just the hashtag, the location, let's say, and you can see like what people do with it, and I think that will be probably for me like the very rewarding thing to see how people it makes the people interact with the building and environment in an interesting way.
Yeah, it's been amazing already to see the reaction. Certainly we were not able to hide the installation as it was going up, but it's incredible how it operates from different perspectives, even crossing the mall this week. It has such an amazing presence. So I would encourage everyone, if you have not, to circle the building, take a look from all angles, watch the curtains sway in the breeze. And please thank me, or join me in thanking Nicolas Party, which you can thank me too, but let's all together thank Nicolas Party for this wonderful work.